Good evening and good morning as well. Today, my colleague and myself, so my colleague Anna Maria Urbanova and myself, will be hosting this match of the day 3. So the teams will have their third match for the group phase, a team from Canada and a team from Brazil, and it is on a theme which is belonging actually to the day 3. This competition is organized by the Cross Foundation, the Inter-University Law Debate Tournament, 6th edition 2023. So now I give the floor to my colleague to host the match.
Thank you very much. Welcome everyone. As my colleague said, we are today's hosts for today's session. My name is Anna Maria Urbanova, and my colleague and co-founder of Corks Foundation's competition, Mr. Aurélien Florent. Well, we both welcome the Dumbledore Law School, a returning participant for the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament, as well as University of Manitoba of Canada, first-time participant in this competition. Welcome to both teams. Just a reminder and introduction to the viewers, today's debate session, today's debate statement was released to teams at the same time. They had exactly the same amount of time for preparation, 7 days. The statement in question is that it should be prohibited for a state, company, or an individual to request a handover of long-term loan of critical infrastructure, for example, ports, stations, and airports, in a foreign country in exchange for debt repayment. So the teams had to prepare for in favor and against statements. They will only know 5 minutes before the match starts which positions they will be assigned. That would be all from the organizing team, and it is now time for the teams to introduce themselves, starting with University of Manitoba, Mr. Lion Brown.
Hi, welcome. I'm happy to be here for the third round of the debate, and I'm excited to go forward.
Welcome. Continuing with Dumbledore Law School, Ms. Maria Eduarda Milagres Fonseca, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning to everyone. I'm Maria Eduarda. I'm from Brazil. We're studying the Dumbledore Law School in Belo Horizonte, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm very honored. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. From University of Manitoba, Ms. Diana Gutierrez, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm very excited to be here today, representing the University of Manitoba, and good luck to everyone today.
Welcome. From Dumbledore Law School, Sofia Campolina Fonseca, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, good morning. I'm very anxious to participating. It is very good to be for the third round, and that's all.
Thank you and welcome again. It's good to have to see you again in day 3. From University of Manitoba, Mr. Stefan Light.
Yes, hello again, everyone, and good afternoon, evening, morning to everyone. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this final round of the group phase. It's been a lot of fun so far. I've really enjoyed it. So hopefully we have fun again today.
Welcome everyone again to the competition. So as said before, the teams will only now know which positions they will be assigned. I'm sharing my screen shortly. If you can just give me an indication that you can see it.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So on the count, I will click in a second and my colleague will be announcing the positions for the teams.
So yes, I see that this is the University of Manitoba who will be in favor, and as well starting the match. It's always the team in favor who starts the match. So as a consequence, this is Dumbledore Law School who will be, I see there is a mistake, Manitoba Bra, but yeah, can, of course. But yes, Dumbledore Law School will be doing the position against. So concretely, the University of Manitoba will be starting the match defining the position. It should be prohibited for a state, company, or an individual to request a handover or long-term loan of critical infrastructure such as ports, stations, and airports in a foreign country in exchange for debt repayment. And on the other side, Dumbledore Law School will be defining the position. It should not be prohibited for a state, company, or an individual to request to hand over all long-term loan of critical infrastructure such as ports, station, and airport in a foreign country in exchange for debt repayment. You have 5 minutes to prepare the match. You can close your camera and microphone, review your notes eventually, and we'll start with the University of Manitoba.
The time for preparation is now over. We'll be starting with the opening statements. University of Manitoba, you have 4 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, distinguished panel and colleagues. What is the difference between getting a loan from a bank and getting a loan from a loan shark? A loan shark intentionally targets vulnerable people, and a loan shark is willing to bend all sorts of rules to get their money back. Today, it will become clear that debt trap diplomacy and the seizure of foreign infrastructure does much the same. It plays into the worst impulses of great power politics, allowing for strategic rivalries to be played out around the world with colonial outposts. We are proud to propose the motion that it should be prohibited for a state, company, or individual to request a handover of long-term loans of critical infrastructure, such as ports, stations, and airports, in a foreign country in exchange for debt repayment. Today, I will be speaking to you about the dangers of this practice, and my partners will be speaking to you about how the law needs to be implemented on this matter. First, why is this a form of great power politics? Seizing infrastructure uses smaller, developing nations and their people as small pawns. Overwhelmingly, the loans that use critical infrastructure as collateral are given to developing economies. Inherently, if a nation is bargaining its ports or electrical grids for cash, they are vulnerable. And let's examine an example of what I'm referring to. Hambantota Port in Sri Lanka was a development passed up on by Canadian and European developers, as A, Sri Lanka was in the midst of a civil war, and B, this project did not stand to make any money. In 2015, China swept in and gave massive loans to Sri Lanka, loans that they knew they could not pay back. And when just that happened in 2018, Sri Lanka was forced to sign away the port and its surrounding land for 99 years. Often, these projects make no financial sense, but great strategic sense. Ports for warships in major shipping lanes, access to communications, telecommunications, and access to rare earths or minerals, or energy supply. This is precisely what the British did in Hong Kong, Singapore, and what the United States continues to do in Guantanamo. This is the worst of 19th century colonialism and 21st century capitalism, and it poses immense danger to third-party nations. China, the United States, and Russia all deploy warships and aircraft in ports and airports that they control abroad, and they use them to further geopolitical and strategic tensions. The second aspect of these deals that makes them predatory is that they are often the product of undemocratic cloak and dagger decision-making. Returning to Hambantota Port, it was reported by the New York Times that large payments from the Port Construction Fund flowed directly to campaigns and politicians who supported this project. In Bangladesh, numerous development companies were banned from bidding on projects of this nature due to hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash given to officials. The same thing occurred in the Philippines in 2009, when it was shown that rampant corruption had taken place. Equatorial Guinea, it is going on right now. These decisions would be far more justifiable, and the seizure of infrastructure far more justifiable if it was a democratic decision, but it is rarely a democratic decision. These deals are infamous for being corrupt and ripe with such behavior. To conclude, John Adams famously said that there are two ways to subjugate a nation, either through the sword or by debt. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot let debt become a sword. We are proud to propose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. The Mulder Law School, you now have 4 minutes for your opening statement.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
Your Excellencies, greetings. My name is Maria Eduarda Milagres, and alongside my colleague Sofia Campolina, and we defend the thesis that it should not be prohibited for a state, a company, or an individual to invest in infrastructure in a foreign country. After all, it's a trade agreement in which the parties spontaneously decide to invest. And since international law protects foreign investments, globalized commercial transactions should be incentivized. So, I would like to establish here all three main points. First, international law promotes the protection of foreign investments established by the Salini Test. Second, private autonomy and the principle of sovereignty must be respected in globalized commercial transactions. And third, several draft conventions, such as the OECD, recognizes the principle that a state is bound to respect the property of nationals of other states. As said, international law does not prohibit this kind of agreement, and it actually seeks to protect private autonomy. As the Article 1 of the UNIDROIT principles provides, the parties are free to enter into a contract and to determine its content. In addition, international investment law through organizations such as the OECD and the WTO have been incentivizing the protection of foreign investments, especially after the end of the First World War. Moreover, the Draft Convention on Investments Abroad affirms that progress in the world can only be attained and ensured by fruitful cooperation between all peoples. The inflow of foreign direct investment can be a source of job creation and economic growth. That said, states have sovereignty to decide what is best for them. So if a state cannot afford to invest in infrastructure, foreign investments can be a good alternative. Also, investments are a better alternative because states don't need to resort to the global shadow banking system. Therefore, according to the Salini test, investments are defined by the four following elements: a contribution, a certain duration, a risk, and a contribution to the economic development of the host country, making clear then that these investments are not a way to have control over the states or to go against their sovereignty. As an example, even the United States of America, one of the most powerful states in the world, uses foreign resources to boost its economy and infrastructure by offering permanent residence to investors through EB-5 visas. This practice is very common and it complies with the international law since there are several investment principles, such as the fair and equitable treatment and the no arbitrary and discriminatory measures impairing the investments. Therefore, it's important to encourage the globalized transactions and never forbid them. As, according to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the foreign direct investment flows in 2021 were $1.6 trillion of dollars. So it's evident how important these transactions are for the circulation of capital in the world, and the prohibition of them would have catastrophic effects on the economy of several countries. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. Debating from the University of Manitoba, you have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal. We cannot hear you.
Thank you. As it has been suggested by our friends, globalized transaction act as a form of incentives, that international law should protect investment, and that we should respect autonomy. But we really have to ask ourselves, whose investment is being protected and who truly has autonomy? Yes, countries have self-determination. Yes, they can choose their own trade terms. And yes, in large part, the law stands on our friend's side. However, simply because it's not currently illegal doesn't mean that it should still be allowed to continue. The law, in reality, is being implemented in order for states to really take care of themselves. A request that is being made by a global superpower who has all the leverage and negotiating power to create their terms of the default conditions, such as taking over critical infrastructure, is just a practice of legal coercion. Liam noted the example of the port in Sri Lanka, which has been leased to China for the next 99 years. This is 99 years of China dictating how the port can be used, whether tariffs should be imposed, the limits of imports and exports. These are the exact same terms that the British imposed on China when they took over Hong Kong. And in that instance, China commonly referred to it as the unequal treaties. But now, because the terms are in their favor, it's okay. China was only able to come back from this in large part because of how large their population is and because of their centralized government, which has allowed them to rapidly industrialize. This is a population of 1.4 billion as compared to Sri Lanka with 22.15 million. A country being able to request a handover of critical infrastructure, which they have the power to benefit from, regardless of their ability to need to protect, it's just a form of widening the current economic gap. And with respect to the Salini test, the only contribution that is being made is to the country who's imposing the terms, all under the guise of legality. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. The Mulder Law School, you now have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
Your Excellencies, about states, companies, or individuals requesting a handover or a long-term loan in exchange for debt repayment. It is just one more case of negotiation between parties of an international contract looking for a neutral solution that can be agreeable, beneficial to both of them. What you call debt trap diplomacy, well, I call private autonomy. Parties are allowed to enter into deals made in objective good faith. Furthermore, we're not discussing if it is politically adequate. Otherwise, we should not call the politically motivated charges against the chief financial officer of Huawei Technologies in your country. International investments should be considered espionage, and the handout and long-term loans of infrastructure to be prohibited because of politics. Well, we might as well change the basis of international commercial law. The oil flow loan between the Chinese government bank and the Venezuelan state, for example, provided a steady supply of funds that no other international creditor could or would provide to Venezuela. It might be not the best scenario, and it could be debatable, but it is undeniable that it provided the needed cash flow for the Venezuelan people. International law promotes the practice of foreign investments, and in adjudication, there is no problem concerning those requests, Your Excellencies. Ergo, private autonomy and sovereignty of countries must be respected, as those trades provide reciprocal fruitful outcomes. If principles of international investment law are fulfilled, there should be no impediment to global transactions in infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. The debate team from University of Manitoba, you now have 2 minutes for your second rebuttal.
Thank you. Today, I'd like to address some of the remarks from our learned colleagues at Dom Helder. They describe these as rather run-of-the-mill international trade agreements based on good faith and solid decision-making. I would like to point out a number of things. For starters, a state can withdraw from a trade agreement or vote to amend it. In these instances, Sri Lanka, for instance, will not have that choice for 99 years. That is fundamentally different than something like NAFTA, which can be renegotiated at a whim. Second, to their point on good faith, we would respect international agreements that are truly based on a meeting of the minds and on good faith. But as I pointed out in my speech, these sort of developments are famous or infamous for being immensely corrupt. Thousands of dollars being passed around in briefcases is not a good faith dealing. Lastly, our constructive point is that these control of vital infrastructure on the part of larger nations provide an opportunity for coercion and intimidation. It is not right that a bureaucrat from half a world away can cut off the power or shut down a vital port or turn off the railroads in a country. It's not right that they even threaten to do so. But we believe it is optimistic or perhaps naive to think that large, powerful states will not use their ownership to coerce these host nations in the region. These are fundamentally different than other types of international tensions, because once you start parceling out vital infrastructure, a state does have the power to turn off major infrastructure, shut off the lights in a major city. we consider these fundamentally different than a trade agreement like NAFTA or an agreement to join the EU. Panel, we are very proud to propose the motion because it empowers and protects states. It does not exploit them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamal the Law School, you now have 2 minutes for your second rebuttal.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
As our counterparts disposed, even though the une droit principles stated the autonomy of parties to enter into a contract and determine its contents, and the bilateral investment treaties establish the terms and conditions for private international investment. As I understand, we should disconsider autonomy of parties and, well, objective faith parameters should not be presumed. Again, take the requirements of the Green Card, for example. It allows individuals to have permanent residency in exchange of investments in the United States. All seen is a more viable solution for both parties, as the countries get a cheaper loan and individuals get the wanted permanent residency. Moreover, if the problem is about critical infrastructure, take the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, a capital-raising policy that invests in infrastructure abroad. Since Chinese offer is far superior than its internal demand, the alternative is to invest in other countries. Besides being great for China, it is a better deal for underprivileged countries, considering the obstacles to get financing from other capitals. Then, why prohibit something that promotes the flow of capital for economic activity and development? If your concern is about economic dependency on the financing, well, I worry about the consequences of the prohibition on the effectiveness of public services. Lastly, I could say that all countries are able to provide critical infrastructure for the population without handing over to foreign countries, companies, or even individuals. However, this is not the reality. All I can say is that it is a great investment opportunity for the greatest economies. It benefits the less privileged ones, and well, it is a licit way of doing business. Period. Thank you.
Thank you for your submissions. We are now entering the conclusions. University of Manitoba debate team, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, panel. So what I'll be doing for you in this conclusion is really boiling down what this debate has been about. And ultimately, the question is, what side is best following the principles of international law? More specifically, the principles of sovereignty and self-determination. And without a doubt, we believe that it is side proposition. So why is that? Well, if we look at what side opposition is proposing, they're looking at a world where key infrastructure projects can be handed over to foreign countries. And what is another name for these key infrastructure projects? They're essentially the tools for development for a developing nation. This is how developing nations can grow their economies. This is how they can deliver goods to their people. This is how they can have revenue streams, profitable revenue streams, which are needed for investment within their country. We've heard our learned friends submit that their side is proposing a great investment opportunity for rich nations. And to be frank, they are correct. It is a great opportunity for rich nations to make a lot of money. What it is not is a good opportunity for poor nations, for developing nations, to grow their economies and strengthen their societies. What are they essentially proposing? They're saying, well, because you're entering into the agreement, it therefore must be okay. Well, what we would submit is that there are also people out there who unfortunately would be willing to sell their kidneys if enough money was being offered to them. However, it is the duty of society and government to prevent those measures from going into place. We cannot allow laissez-faire capitalism on the international stage to disrupt the development of developing nations. These measures are not being made in good faith. They are only being made to increase the profit margins of wealthy nations and the investors within them. And it is for those reasons we are very proud to propose the motion before us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamal the Law School, you have 2 minutes for your conclusion.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
In conclusion, honorable judges, to reassure that it should not be prohibited for a state, a company, or an individual to invest in infrastructure in a foreign country, we may look back on what we established. As we already clarified, these negotiations are common and they comply with the dictates of international law. After all, they are nothing more than a trade agreement in which the parties spontaneously decided to invest. Therefore, these negotiations are basically the result of the practice of private autonomy and the principle of sovereignty, both of which support the foreign investments, as shown by the UNIDROIT principles. Moreover, we reinforce our understanding that the inflow of foreign investments can be a great option to guarantee the development of the underprivileged countries, since they promote the flow of capital for economic growth. Further on that, we state that there is no room for allegations such as the undercut of sovereignty and debt dependence. As seen by the Salini test, it's clear that these investments are not a way to gain control over countries, but they are actually a viable solution to meet their needs. As, as it has proved by the fact that even USA, one of the most powerful states in the world, uses foreign investments to improve its economy and its infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. And this now concludes the debate, day 3 debate in the group phase for Domelde Law School and University of Manitoba. On the side of organization, let me congratulate both teams, not only for the preparation for this match, but also in the execution of your research during the session. Well done to the both teams. It was a pleasure to listen to your debate today, as well as it was before. On that account, you can now relax a bit. Perhaps this kind of introduction for the feedback session has allowed you to take a breath in and out. And traditionally, some questions on how did you find the preparation for the match? Did you perhaps already encounter the topic of foreign investment during your studies? And how did you find the match? Giving the floor to University of Manitoba, Mr. Brown.
I had heard of this topic before. I took a politics of development class that was very interesting. And I've also seen it in the news, but it was good to really dig into it and see both sides. You know, that's I think a great aspect of this tournament is you don't know what side you're going to be on. So I actually kind of changed my own mind in the process of researching this, and it was a blast. Well done to our colleagues from Domhelder.
Thank you. From the Domelde Law School, Ms. Sofia Campolina Fonseca, how did you find the preparation? Did you already encounter this before?
Well, this was quite a new topic for me. For the preparation, well, we studied a lot. We had the guidance of our coach, and such as said by our counterparts, it is quite amazing how this competition gives you the both side perspective. And I'm not still sure each side I truly believe, because they have really good arguments on both. And I would like to say congratulations to the other team as well.
Thank you. Thank you both. On the side of organization, it's always good to hear that we encourage the students to look into the objectives and the legislation for the both sides of the arguments, allowing perhaps in your personal life to also utilize the skills later and also in your profession. That said, from University of Manitoba, Ms. Gutierrez, how did you find the experience?
So this I think by far was one of the most difficult motions that we've been given, because it is certainly not a topic I am in any shape or form familiar with. So, you know, for the sake of getting the opportunity to learn something new, I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad that I was able to sort of dig into some new areas of law, and that I had the great support of my teammates. So that made it really, really fun. And you know, that's kind of like the best part of this whole experience. So yeah, thank you for challenging me.
Thank you for sharing that. From the Domelde Law School, Ms. Maria Eduarda Milagres Fonseca, how was the experience for you?
So for me, this was actually a challenging topic because we haven't studied about it. We haven't ever heard about this topic. So it was interesting to look for it to study both sides. That's the good part about this competition because we can always see both sides, not only today, but all debates we had here with other counterparts. So I'm very glad to be part of this. It was a very interesting topic. Thank you for the organization and everyone.
Thank you for your feedback. From University of Manitoba, Mr. Licht, how did you find the experience?
Yeah, just like it kind of everyone's repeated, this was certainly a challenging topic, one we had to do a lot of research for. I wasn't particularly familiar with it. I've heard of the idea of debt trap diplomacy, but I hadn't looked into it very much. Certainly, I haven't taken a class on it, but I really enjoyed it. And as always, as has been said by I think everyone so far, one of the really cool things about this tournament is you prep the pro and the con sides in order to prepare for the actual debate. So it's always really interesting looking at both sides, evaluating them against each other even before the debate has begun. So I really enjoyed it, and congratulations again to the team from Domhiller. It was a lot of fun to debate today, as I hoped.
Thank you very much. Again, from the side of organization, well done in this match and in the matches previous to this one. We look forward to sharing the results with you. Of course, we are now ending the group phase shortly. A few more matches are outstanding for some of the teams. Once all the results have been gathered, you will know through a general newsletter of a group event for all the participants in the second half of April, where you will be able to also network within the teams, but also learn which teams are continuing to the next stage. As you know, this year we are in 7 groups, so 2 best teams of each group will be continuing, but also it's possible for 2 teams to qualify based on their best average score they have received in the group phase. So this will be a moment where the scores for the day 3 will be actually revealed alongside with the continuation. That said, passing the floor to my colleague who will, as is the tradition, conclude the session. And again, well done.
Yes. So well done, both teams in Canada and Brazil. So I really enjoyed indeed listening to the fact that you had to go outside of your comfort zone as well to discover new elements, new problematics, and as well to find on both sides, of course, what are the advantages to defend a position. So what I want to ask now, as usual, is what are the connections possibly they could be between Brazil and Canada, and between Winnipeg and Belo Horizonte. I'm sure that I'm the first one, the very first one to ask this kind of thing in the history. But let's try still. So in Winnipeg, have you seen many Brazilians around, Brazilian students or no? Do you have any friends who are Brazilians, by the way?
Yeah, actually, we have a second year, Bruna, who is actually originally from Brazil. I don't know from where, but I know she lived there till she was like about 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And have you been in Brazil? Maybe one of you, or so some of you?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Unfortunately not.
I wish. I grew up in Bolivia for a number of years, and I was so close to Brazil, but I love the culture. Coisa Mais Linda is one of my favorite TV shows. I don't know if Sophia or Maria Eduarda are familiar with it, and I hope to learn samba one day. Maybe one day you guys can teach me.
Yeah. I played soccer with a guy from Brazil when I was a kid, and we called him Kaká because he kind of looked like him, and he was really good. But that's the one Brazilian I've met in Winnipeg.
Yes, of course. I mean, to improve in football or in soccer, as you say, it's good to play with Brazilians. That's for sure.
Yes.
And on the side of Brazilians, have you seen any Canadians, maybe in Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais, or?
No, I haven't. I had a few friends who moved to Canada, but I never met a Canadian.
And your colleague, yeah?
Well, I have never seen a Canadian here in Belo Horizonte, but I have been already in Canada a few years ago. I spent 1 month in Canada. I went to some cities like Toronto, Quebec, Montreal, and Ottawa. But I would love to go back to Canada again and meet and get to know other cities. And I really like Canadian people. They were very kind to us. I was trying to help, so I really like this country.
Yeah, so just make sure you don't come in March. It's -1 right now, which is warm for us, but I'm sure probably pretty cold for Belo Horizonte.
There's still about 1.5 feet of snow on the ground here,
Yes,
so.
definitely. I went on summer in July.
Yeah, it's smart.
Smart.
And there is something that I learned, maybe you know about. I heard that there is a shorter distance between the north of Brazil and Canada and the south of Canada than there is between the north of Brazil and the south of Brazil. Did you know about that or not?
Yes, it's true that.
Yes. So the country is so long, Brazil, that actually, you can land faster in Montreal than actually you go next to the border with Uruguay. So yes, and to see the equivalent in France, going from the north to the south of Brazil is like going from Paris to Iran. So that is the same distance. So just one country. But in Canada as well, I guess, just as a question for the Canadians, have you been as well to all the different provinces, or just a few, or
Most of them, I think.
Yeah, I think by now I've been to most of them. And
Okay.
likewise, going east to west in Canada, or actually I guess north to south, is quite a journey.
Yeah. Fortunately, we're right in the middle, which
Yep.
in many ways is unfortunate, but in many ways is also quite nice because then we get to go to the east and west faster.
Okay, that's very good. So,
Yeah.
in any case, again, it's an opportunity. If you want to keep contact, you can let us know. We can exchange the email address by email. Just send an email to the Quartz Foundation. Because indeed, for future programs, maybe between University of Manitoba and Belo Horizonte, I mean, maybe some of your fellows wants to go in an exchange in Brazil. I don't know, but or the Brazilians would like to go in exchange one day in Winnipeg. Maybe not in January, but in close to June. So that would be a good idea. But in any case, many thanks for this match. Many thanks for your work as well. And the next time we'll meet will be, of course, during this networking event that we'll be preparing soon. And you will hear about this, of course, by email. But of course, we encourage you to watch with the other teams and the other match just to see what they do, because you might end up meeting them in another match, of course. So many thanks again. Have a good rest of the day, because as you can see, it's night in Europe already, and wish you the best for the rest of this end of the week. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Many
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.
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 Bye bye.